Hey Buns, or should I say a new Banore Telena, because we just got a ton of new information about the upcoming World of Warcraft expansion, Midnight, at Gamescom 2025. We got info about housing, about a new allied race, a new spec, zones, dungeons. There's so much that we need to talk about, so let's hop in. First of all, let's talk about the Midnight cinematic. So I personally loved this cinematic, and I was screaming and freaking out, hooping and hollering at the screen while I was watching it because it's Lady Liadrin and Lord Thamar. They finally get their time to shine, literally. You got Quel'Thalas, Silvermoon City stuff, and Lord Thamar just being a Chad, saying like, you can't even break one elf. The light has to save us. So I personally loved the cinematic, but there were things about it that I did not like, and I understand why for some people it might have felt a little flat. So the one thing that I really did not like is how the elves look. Why would you give them white parts of their eyes? They're blood elves. Their eyes are supposed to be glowing. I heard somebody say they look like elves from an Elder Scrolls Online cinematic, and that's so true. Like, they just look kind of generic. Blood elves are supposed to have glowy green or completely glowing eyes. And I also felt like the ears were a little short. Like the hyper-realism, why are you doing that? Maybe look back at the Burning Crusade cinematic and see how blood elves were portrayed then. I know that was a really long time ago, but maybe a more cartoony style wouldn't be a bad call, considering World of Warcraft has a little bit more of a cartoony style. The other thing is that if you don't know who these characters are, then it might not feel as cool for you. For me, the hype moment was seeing Lady Liadrin and Lord Thamar in action and getting their chance in the spotlight. And I understand that she's run off to go and do some kind of summoning magic, but if you don't know anything about the Sunwell, you don't know anything about them, you might think that she's about to get her Mythic Plus Deserter debuff. I feel like there's assumptions there that you wouldn't automatically make if you don't know anything about this setting or these characters. I've heard people say that it seems like a good story cinematic, but not necessarily an expansion selling Midnight reveal cinematic that's meant to make people who don't know anything about the game want to buy the expansion as much as people who do know a lot about the game. And I think that is reasonably fair. I mean, I have a long history with World of Warcraft. I've been playing since 2004. The name Zepla is a name I came up with for my Blood Elf mage that I made when the Dark Portal opened. But I understand if you don't have all this background, you shouldn't need it to enjoy a expansion reveal cinematic. So taking all this into account, maybe it's not the best cinematic that Blizzard has ever created, but I enjoyed it, and I liked it a hell of a lot more than the Dragonflight one and more than the War Within one. We're getting 4 new zones in Midnight, including Eversong Woods, Zul'Aman, Haranir, yes, more on that in a minute, and Voidstorm, and all these, of course, are going to have their own stories, their own delves, their own dungeons. Silvermoon City is the new player hub for Midnight, and yes, fortunately, they are going to make it so certain areas of the city are horde only. That feels right. In recent years, the faction war has just been piddling away, so I mean, at least something needs to feel like it's still for the horde. I personally think that Eversong Woods is one of the most beautiful, unique, and iconic elven forest type places in any game that I've ever played, and so I have a lot of nostalgia and love for it. I saw these pictures, like the screenshots they released, of places like the dungeons we will go to, like Windrunner Spire. Who can forget that quest in Windrunner Spire where you find Alaria's locket and you bring it to Sylvanas? Like, what if you find another locket and you bring it to her in the mall? No, please don't. It reminded me of this meme I saw today about how Ocarina of Time actually looks versus how it looked when I was 12. But for me, it's like, it's the same picture. It looks the same. That's so maybe now some of y'all will see Eversong Forest the same way that I see it in my head. Murder Row is also a dungeon, which is really cool. I feel like this expansion is going to revitalize a lot of the roleplay that we used to see in Silvermoon City. Magistress Terrace is also coming as a dungeon, which I guess we're gonna get maybe a new white chocobo, white Hawkstrider mount drop in there, like an updated graphics one. Here's an idea, a fat white Hawkstrider. As far as Zul'Aman, we got Den of Nalarak, we got Mysara Caverns. In Voidstorm, there's a Voidscar Arena and Nexus Point Zanus. So Void Storm is, I guess, what happens when the Void Lords win. It looks like everything is just totally messed up there. It is the location of a new 40 versus 40 PvP battleground, which actually sounds amazing. I haven't done a lot of PvP in recent years, but I always love this large scale war type PvP. Now, I did briefly mention a second ago that one of the new zones besides Voidstorm, Zulamont, and Eversong Woods is Haranir. And yes, that you know what that means. Haranir is the homeland of the new furry allied race. They're a little furry. The Haranir have been announced. I'm so excited because they can be shamans. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you know how badly I have wanted to play a shaman and how the lengths that I went to make a night elf shaman happen. But this is actually better. They can also play druids, and we got a sneak peek at the cat form, which is like a cat bat thing in the gameplay trailer. They can also be warrior, hunter, rogue, priest, mage, warlock, and monk, besides druid and shaman. But I am all in on Haranir shaman. I am just absolutely thrilled. However, I will say, I feel like they did not do a great job of showing off the Haranir in the gameplay trailer because, okay, they show the first guy and he's like horrible lighting, like it's completely shadowy, and then he jumps in the air and like when the text comes up like new allied race Haranir, he's literally covering his face. So he's like shooting a boat and he's covering his face. You can't even see him. And then they show the girl. Do you know they don't even show her face? They show her from behind, and then she's running and she changes into a cat bat thing. And what are you doing? Like, we need a separate Haranir trailer to make it up to me with, because this was not a great demonstration of what they look like. Now, they did release 3 screenshots separately of what the Haranir can look like, and it does look like we're getting a lot more customization than what had been data mined by Wowhead a few months ago. Looks like you're going to have different eye colors to choose from, different little, you know, maybe you want bone earrings or you want little ivy on your ear. What will the totems be like? Will they be like mushrooms? I would love that. I love that Haranir looks very much like Zangarmarsh, because that's always going to be one of my favorite zones in the entire game. I fell in love with it back then, and this reminds me so much of that. I think that I'll go with tailoring for my Haranir because they're probably good at making quilts. So in addition to the dungeons, there's also going to be 3 new raids on launch. So still 9 bosses, but having the separate raids is something that they haven't done in a long time, and I think it's a very nice change of pace to not get stuck in the same old formula. There's going to be the Void Spire, which is a 6 boss raid in the Void Storm. You got a single boss raid, the Dream Rift, and you got a 2 boss raid, March on Quel'Danas, and they will not say who the bosses are because that is apparently spoilery, but guys, you know, we're all going to find out in the PTR. Another huge reveal that we've gotten at Gamescom is the fact that Demon Hunter is really getting a 3rd spec. Yes, the rumors were true. It was real. It's getting K-pop Demon Hunter. It's really called Devourer, and this is a mid-range DPS spec, so it's ranged but not. They said it's not going to work like normal ranged specs, and based on what Wowhead has reported, it sounds kind of like Red Mage to me, if you're familiar with that from FF. They call this a mid-range spec, which uses a mix of melee and ranged abilities to deal void and cosmic damage. So you got Reap, Scythe Attack, you got Void Blade and Hungering Slash, so melee combo and a retreat. You got your Collapsing Star finisher, Void Ray. I'm a fire in my laser. And we got Void Metamorphosis, so it seems the point of the spec is to get in your Void form and try to stay in it as long as possible by soul harvesting. They've also announced a new system called Prey. You pick a zone and you pick an enemy, and that enemy turns into Liam Neeson, who will find you and will kill you. Basically, it attempts to gank you many times, and you can set this to normal, hard, or nightmare difficulty. If it's on a hard or nightmare, then it'll lock you in a circle and you gotta fight it till one of you gets out of there alive. Like, I don't know, this could be really fun, or it could be really frustrating. It kind of How much heads up are you gonna get before this thing finds you? Is he gonna come to your house and find you? Find you in the middle of a sensitive roleplay situation? What if you are forgetful and you sign up for the prey, but then you forget about it and then you get jump scared? The rewards for this are cosmetics, mounts, titles, housing items, so hopefully it's gonna be fun and not a frustrating thing. Of course, we got a ton of information about housing, and I'm sure that we will continue to get that as Gamescom progresses, because people have an opportunity to test it on the show floor, and you too can test housing kind of by going to the virtual tour website that they've set up, where you can click around and go through a house. It might give you some hints on different places you might want to farm for reputation before this feature comes out. Now, if you pre-order the game, then you will be able to access housing in a limited form with patch 11.2.7. However, this has been something I need clarification on, because Ian Hazzikostas said in an interview with GameSpot that this is a preview of housing in a sense. The full-fledged neighborhood functionality and all the content there will be coming with Midnight itself. So what I need is confirmation if this means there will be no neighborhoods, no selection of a plot in 11.2.7, because we have some players in our community who are worried that if they don't pre-order the game, they're not going to get into the guild neighborhood or their friend's neighborhood. So this is something we need clarification on now, as people might be making pre-order decisions based on early access to housing. We need to know how robust that feature is going to be with early access and the pre-order. I also have some very good news for our elf enthusiasts like myself. You will be able to choose from human, orc, and elven exterior architecture, with more styles to come in the future. So that's huge. Does this mean you can have a night elf elven exterior on Alliance and blood elf elven on Horde? I don't know, but I think we'll probably hear more about that in the future. Either way, I'm happy to hear that. They've also released the key art for the Midnight expansion, and notably, they are not showing Xal'atath's feet in this one. I feel like they're trying to get away from that meme maybe, but it's kind of weird because I thought this was supposed to be the World Soul Saga. You got Lorthmar here, you got Xal'atath, and there's some dead Silvermoon defenders, and one can only assume that they were missing heels. Like all of us. There were some false reports going around saying that Transmog would be free in Midnight. That is sadly not true, and Blizzard did clarify that in Midnight we are shifting to slot-based Transmog. So a new belt will take on the appearance you've applied to your belt slot. This means you'll pay only when you want to change your look, not every time you upgrade your gear. You'll be able to assign Transmog to different kinds of situations, which will auto-swap your appearance based on the context. So you could have one for being in your house and one for being out in the world. The beta signups are live. You can now opt in for the beta to try to get into Midnight as soon as possible. And pre-order info is also up. I'll put a link in the description box down below where you can review all the pre-order information. Now, of course, they are bringing back some things that were controversial, yet clearly working very well to sell copies of the pre-order to people. Namely, the 3 days of early access to Midnight in the $90 Epic Edition only, as well as Midnight beta access in the Epic Edition only. These are things that have gotten a lot of pushback from the community in the past, but clearly they do enough to sell copies that they are going to continue doing it. There's also a Midnight housing bundle included in the Epic Edition, which includes some portraits. I don't see any Lorthmar portrait here, and I assume it's because you're going to let me get it as a renown reward. Right? So for me, in terms of things I'm most excited about, it's playing a Haranir Shaman. It's the Silvermoon and Quel'Thalas revamp. I actually, when I was at the Housing Summit in May, I asked the developers if they were gonna revamp Silvermoon and Quel'Thalas, and they're like, oh, we're housing devs. We don't know anything about that. Like, what's Silvermoon? Like, we don't know what you mean. Now I see that they were being very cagey because they did know and they couldn't say anything at the time. So what are you most excited about from all we've heard about Midnight so far? Did you like that cinematic, or did you think that the elves looked wonky like I did? Do you think that the stylistic choice they made was a good one? Do you disagree with me? Why? Are you excited to play in Haranir? Do you care about it as much as I do? Oh my god, I'm so excited to play in Haranir. Are you hyped for housing or for exploring any of these new areas that they've announced? Let me know in the comments section down below. I would love to hear from you. And I want to thank all of our Patreon buns who keep the lights on around here. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. I especially want to thank my Omega buns who subscribe at the highest tier. That's Chris and Pete Wilson. And I want to thank also, of course, my Twitch subscribers. You can support the channel on Twitch or on Patreon. You can also support the channel for free just by leaving a comment here, by dropping a like or a sub. All that goes a long way to help support the channel and make YouTube want to make the algorithm work in the channel's favor. So thank y'all for doing that. Thank you so much for watching. And as we get more information about Midnight, you know I'm going to keep you updated here on this channel because I am so locked in for this expansion. And you're more than welcome to join our guild, which is EU and NA, called Only Buns. If you want to join it, just join our Discord. Look on our channel, Only Buns Guild Invites, and you'll see instructions there on how to get into our guild. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.